What's good, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Green Room with Danny Green. I'm Harrison Sanford. You already know the vibes. Before we get into today's discussion, please do us a favor. Give us a like, a rate, a subscribe, a review, all the things that you could do either on the podcast app. Yep, 5-star review, please. Either do that on your podcast app, or if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, that subscribe button, and make sure you give us a follow and get notifications every single time that we drop new content. We're going to talk about what LeBron James said on Thursday night as it refers to Anthony Edwards and not wanting to be the face of the league. That's for later on in the show. But first, we got to get to some comments that I heard and Danny heard from one Kendrick Perkins and from Paul George. Give a little backstory. Danny, how long have we been doing this podcast now?
Coming up on 7 years this July, I think. This July or August, it'll be almost 7 years.
Well, okay, hold on. When did you get traded to? That was summer of 2008. Summer of 2018. Was that June?
Yeah, June, July-ish. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Summer league was going on. We got traded on some league, so I think it was in July.
So we have been doing the podcast since then. Danny, how many did you win? So our first year of the pod was a 2019-2020 NBA season. No, 2018-2019. 2018-2019 season. What happened that season? What happened? Did you win a title that year?
We did. We won in Toronto in 2019. We won a title that year.
Oh, okay. And then the following year, we did the podcast again.
We did.
And you were in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you also won a title in the 2019-2020 season, correct?
I did. That is correct. I did win a title. I was fortunate to win back-to-back while we did podcasting during that time.
While we podcasted, Interesting. And I'm saying that because one, Kendrick Perkins, and we'll get into the Paul George side of it too. Mm-hmm. Kendrick Perkins recently was on NBA Today, and he said that Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, who do the Roommates podcast, should take a step back from podcasting and keeping, quote unquote, the main thing, and saying that podcasting is a distraction. Also, what happened earlier this week, Paul George, also known as Podcast P, said he is going to take a step away from his podcast, put it on pause so that he can focus on other things and keeping the main thing. And we can get to Paul George is a different topic. Mm-hmm. The first one, I don't make a habit, Danny, of commenting on other media personalities because I'm not a media critic. I critic athletes, and that's it. That's what I have done my entire career. So I don't think it's fair place to critique people in the media. But in this instance, I will. That's a lazy take from Kendrick Perkins, bro. That is so lazy. Just because the Knicks have not played well against the Cavs, against the Celtics, and against the Thunder, all of a sudden they're distracted. What if they're just not good enough to beat those teams? Like to assume that just because you took 45 minutes to an hour a day, or a week to talk into a microphone with your friends is all of a sudden a distraction. It's a ridiculous and, quite frankly, a lazy take from Kendrick Perkins. He could have watched the film. He could have talked to players on the team. He could have talked to agents. To say that doing a podcast is a distraction is just, I like Kendrick Perkins. It's just lazy, bro, because you and I are evidence. You can do a podcast and also win a championship. It's a ridiculous thing to assert. And I hate people it's almost like he's trying to come at podcast people.
The podcast world. Now. I mean, there's a lot of podcasters.
There's a lot of podcasters here. So all of a sudden, every podcaster Travis Kelce just went to the damn Super Bowl doing a podcast every week with his brother. So what are we talking about here?
Yeah. I mean,
I have more thoughts. I gotta let you go.
I can see both sides.
There's no both sides. No. There's no both sides.
I will say, I wouldn't say a lazy take. I can disagree. I can say he has his opinions. There are moments where Bron has gone 0 dark 30 or whatever and gotten off social media, which is fine. I'm going to disagree, though. I don't think that it's a distraction. It only can be a distraction or can cause distractions if you're using your platform and using the media in a derogatory way. If you're doing hot takes, if you're doing this or trying to stir up this or trying to get the fans, then it can be a distraction to your group, your team, your locker room. If you're trash talking to other group, that type of deal. We do know many other, Draymond Green, another example, who had won a championship, I think it's 2022, if I'm not mistaken, while doing a pod. And he did it after every game. So I don't think you need to stop a pod. You can slow it down. You don't need to do it after every game or after every day or most people do it once a week. We do it weekly. Now, when we won those titles, we did them after each series. I think it might have been more during the bubble because there was not much going on. And then during COVID, nobody was doing anything. Everybody was on Zoom. Everybody was on camera. So it wasn't a distraction at all. But yes, we slowed it down. We did it after each series. We did one before and after each series and left it at that. But an hour a week is not a distraction.
Come on now.
I can see how – I mean, we have so many social media outlets now. You're going to read the comments. People are going to talk regardless. Now you have a platform to give your side of the story of what you heard. Now fans can take it in of, oh, maybe I didn't see that perspective. I didn't know this was going on. I didn't know he was hurt. I didn't know he had this. So it can help. It also can hurt you. We know some guys that have backfired on. But end of the day, I don't think it's a distraction. It's the same distractions as social media. So everybody should just shut down social medias. But I am with him on certain levels. Not saying that these guys don't, but some platforms, some guys don't need a platform. Some guys don't need podcasts. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart have a good thing going. Podcast P. Only thing with Paul George's podcast, there's nothing wrong with it. I think the timing of when he shut it down was throwing people off a little bit. And the way he worded it made it sound, a little bit far-fetched. But yeah, I have no problem with you shutting it down or doing this or pausing it or, slowing down. End of the day, whatever you feel is a distraction is up to you. But for other people, it's really up to you. It's not for other people to speak on what's a distraction for you.
That's an important point that you made right there, Danny, because you're right. Anything in this world can be a distraction. It just matters who you are. For example, there's some people who listen to this podcast who might work a 9 to 5 or whatever it might be, and they might play a video game to get away for a while. It's not a distraction to play video games. Now, if you play video game all day long, maybe that is a distraction. Going out and having a drink could be a good thing for you, for your mental health, just to relax, to be let loose. Now, if you do it all day long or all week long, then it's a distraction. For you to be on the outside of the situation and tell somebody that them podcasting is a distraction is just a gross assumption. It's again, as I said, it's a lazy take. You're the only person who would be qualified to say that it is a distraction is a person who's actually in the locker room. In fact, even if you're in the locker room, you can't even tell somebody that's a distraction. When you were with the Raptors, when you were with the Lakers, nobody on the team could have told you it was a distraction because they didn't necessarily know how much time you put into it. And it didn't matter. Did it affect your practice performance? Did it affect how you performed on the court? None of that the podcast was totally irrelevant to anything that had to actually do with the team. It's not a distraction. It can be one, yes, but you can only say it if you're the person doing the podcast. Only the person in the mirror can tell you if it's a distraction or not. Anybody else doing that is ridiculous. And I get upset, Danny. I get upset with it because podcasting is just it's a very popular form of media now, right? Mm-hmm. And it go across all sports. A lot of athletes are doing it. And for them, it's a way to improve their brand. It's a way for them to potentially get other opportunities. I think the fact that we've done this podcast is part of the reason why you've been with ESPN and FanDuel for a while now, because you've been getting good reps. You're going to use if you're not just Kendrick Perkins, any media person, you're going to use your media platform to tell another player that they can't use a media platform to increase their their visibility, when you don't have any, and enhance their brand when you don't have any insight on it. Go watch the film and tell them that they're not playing well. Go watch talk to the coaches.
And talk about the mistakes. Talk about the issues on the court. The off the court things, it's like, you could say you probably shouldn't spend as much time with your kids. You shouldn't be around your wife. So in San Antonio, they try to eliminate all distractions. Like during playoff times, like, you know what, send your kids away. You don't need to get sick. So don't be living with, don't have the kids staying with you. If they're sick, put them in another place, another hotel if we need to put them away. Or if I know football, it puts guys in hotels a lot of times. But we're grown men at the end of the day, man. And we know what helps us mentally. We know what hurts us mentally and what distracts us. And if that individual can't decipher that at this point, they need to, that's part of growing and maturing. They need to figure it out. And if they don't, that's on them. But yes, as adults and as grown men, we should know at this point in time.
What are we doing here?
What distracts us and what doesn't. And social media has been around for a long time now. So it shouldn't be as distracting as it was. Some guys, people know how to block people. People know how to drown out the sounds and the music and the background noise that doesn't matter. Early on, it was like, all those comments, even fake pages, you'd be like, man, why are they saying these things about me? We're so used to it now. It's like, man, so there's always going to, no matter how good the city is, how good the team is, there's always going to be a group of people that's always going to mess with you and talk, mess online. So you learn to ignore it. And so at this day and age, we all know how to handle social media. And if you don't, then you shouldn't be on it.
And another thing here too, and again, making the assumption that something is a distraction for somebody without actually being that person is a ridiculous thing. Number two, though, there is some validity that it can be a distraction. But then I don't want to just be on the defensive for podcasting. I want to be on the offensive a little bit here, Danny. Podcasting can also be a very good thing, not just for the individual doing it, but for the team.
Yeah,
I would, and you would know
speaking
more.
life into your team. Yeah, if you're speaking life into your team and encouragement, and they get confidence, like, yo, this is how we come with it. Cool. We ain't backing down from anybody. You see guys like, take Memphis, for example, when Ja's like, yo, we want all the smoke. We climbing up the chimney. Everybody on the team's like, all right, we with that. That's our motto. We go and we stand on that. If you talk in life and promoting and encouraging, or you talk great about somebody, a particular teammate you had on the show or not on the show, and say, oh, this person, you give people credit that you weren't able to. Not everybody goes to the podium and speaks after games or to playoff games. You have the opportunity now to give flowers to your teammates that deserve flowers that may not get them. So-and-so got a steal that nobody noticed. So-and-so got a rebound, or this guy's energy in the first half really trickled down to the rest of the group. These things are positives and can help not only that individual, but the group, you know what I'm saying? And they look at you as like, oh, I'm going to war with this guy, he respects me. He's seeing what I'm doing. So yeah, I think all those things come into play, and I think it definitely can be helpful as well.
Let me go back. I'm going to go back to a couple of instances here. Go back to when we did the podcast in Toronto. Kyle Lowry came to the podcast on his birthday.
Yeah.
Nick Nurse came to the studio to chop it up with a new player of his and somebody in me that he didn't even know. I would venture anybody to challenge me and say that those instances did not help improve team chemistry.
Bro, what?
You, Danny, seeing Kyle Lowry on a winter ass day in Toronto, be like, Danny's my man. It's my birthday, but I'm coming through to his pod. How much could that help you get closer as a team as you go on and try and win a championship, which y'all did?
There's nothing more important than the group gatherings and things like that, supporting your teammates and showing up. Kyle doing something like that for me, man, or for us on that platform is like, yo, whatever you need, I got you for life. You know what I'm saying? Nick Nurse the same. So it's like, when you have that type of bond with that type of, relationship with your guys, or build that type of relationship with guys, it only, it makes you stronger. It instills certain things, not just that carries on to the court, but it carries on the rest of life, and lifelong, even after basketball and off the court. You can become friends. And when you're friends and you have that type of respect for each other and that type of love for each other, or you grow that type of, love, it makes it a lot easier to be on the court, have your debates, and go back to being, and debates, if you have a debate or not, or even figure things out on the court easier. The communication becomes better. But your brothers, brothers fight and they love each other the next day. It's like, all right, cool. My bad, I was tripping. But when you don't know each other like that on a personal level, you never support each other, it's easy to be like, F that guy, man. I ain't, I'm gonna do my own thing. And that's how you just inside, like what's the word? You implode internally. That's how internal implosion happens. It trickles down. You're not showing, like when guys do a movie night or this or that events, show up. That's important. They're going to show up for you. When you don't show up for each other off the court, it slowly, you said, it seeps in. It's like a little, it's like a little bomb, little seed, a little terrorist seed that plants and it eventually can explode. Once things start to go, you start losing some games, 3 or 4 in a row, it'll be hard to get back on track.
Let me give our listeners another example. Let's go to LA now. And the Lakers, that team that you had with Frank Vogel as the head coach, it must have given him headaches. Yes, you had LeBron and AD, but between you, Alex Caruso, Avery Bradley, KCP, Kyle Kuzma, Frank Vogel had very difficult decisions to make in terms of playing time. And I know you went through it. Rajon Rondo. I know it's so many guys, and it was hard to pick. Do I ride with the hot hand? This guy does this guy does that. A lot of other situations in the NBA that could have crumbled, but it did not. Y'all won a championship, even though you had your spurts when you played well, you had your spurts when you played bad. KCP the same, Alex Caruso the same, Kyle Kuzma the same. You know what? Alex Caruso came on the pod. Kyle Kuzma came on the pod. KCP came on the pod. Dwight Howard came on the pod. Do you guys think, or anybody who's against podcasts would ever think that maybe the chemistry built during those times on the pod helps when players are fighting for minutes against each other on the way to winning the championship?
Yeah. It only made us root for each other even more. You know what I'm saying? You get an understanding of an individual on another level. As a friend, know his background, you get to interview him, and vice versa. They get to ask questions. I said it only makes the brotherhood, the friendship that much stronger, and you don't even care at that point. Like nobody cares about the credit. Let's just make sure we do something special as a unit, and that's a part of team bonding and championship group. And Pop did it greatly in other ways. We didn't have as much social media and podcasting then, but we did team dinners all the time, and he made us sit with different people. On the plane, where to sit with different people and learn your teammates, get an understanding of them. So that was a similar situation, and that's how we became, so close.
So here's we're going to get to the secret side of this and a little bit talk about the PG thing. But here's I want us to accomplish this, Danny. Mm-hmm. From this day forth, February 28th, the last day of Black History Month, I want us to make history. Mm-hmm. That no media personality will ever blame a player's performance on his podcast. It is a lazy take. It is not a distraction. You could assume it is, but you have no actual proof of that. And I just gave you some evidence here that a podcast can actually help team chemistry, can actually help a team win a championship. So on this day, February 28th, 2025. Stop the nonsense. Cut the bullshit. Podcasting is not a distraction. It is a lazy take. Be better.
Yeah.
Also, hold on. Did Kendrick Perkins come to the podcast when you were playing with the Lakers?
I think
Kendrick Perkins was in studio with us. So what are we doing? So. And again, and it's not just Kendrick Perkins. The shit's been going on for years. And I remember when we first started doing the pod, there were some people who thought, oh, maybe it's a distract. We've gotten better, but I've seen it was Chris Canty, ESPN radio host from Unsportsmanlike, good guy, but he said that Micah Parsons should stop doing this podcast, the Dallas Cowboys pass rusher. Stop the bullshit. It's lazy. It's lazy. Stop it.
I do disagree with it. It's a take. It's their takes, their opinion.
Be better.
For me, I don't think it's a distraction. But yes, maybe we can make today history. But also, in other words, of trying to make history today. I don't know if you knew this or not. It's supposed to be the blackout day today, February 28th.
Oh yeah.
You're not supposed to purchase anything, order anything online, or Uber Eats or whatever. So Good luck with that. But yeah, today is supposed to be the blackout day. And it's supposed to be other dates that we don't know about. So blackout day is also a day we stop criticizing pods.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just cut it out. I want to get to LeBron's comments, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But want to also touch on the other side of things. Podcast P, Paul George, said he's putting his podcast on pause, and I think it's not necessarily this one. His one's a little bit more difficult because. Obviously, I don't know the full extent of the reason. He did say in his video that part of the reason why he doesn't want to do it or is pausing it is because he's not able to be in studio with his co-host anymore because of the distance. But I also have to feel, Danny, that there's a weight on Paul George. There's just a weight on the Sixers with everything that has gone wrong so far this year. Now, him stopping the podcast, it doesn't change Joel Embiid's knees, right? It doesn't change Paul George doing the podcast or not. I don't think it changes his performance or not. But only he can answer that. I hate, there's a part of me that assumes, Danny, that he stopped the podcast because of all the negative attention the team has gotten. And if that's the case, I think that's a damn shame, because the beauty of podcasting as a professional athlete, as you would know, is going through the ups and downs as an athlete and taking your fans through the journey.
I'm with you. I think the reason why he stopped it, not because of the team, but because all the slack he's been getting. You know, they always got these memes and GIFs, and they have the comparisons of how many pods he's done compared to games played or games won. And they're like, I don't think it changes his performance at all. I just think he's tired of hearing the noise. And it's the fact that he's not in studio is different, not being with his guys. But it is a shame. But I also think it was the timing of it made it a little sticky. They had a tough loss against Chicago, which was not a good one. A downright embarrassing loss. And
then
he went on to speak after the game and said, we're just not in. There's no sign of, us showing that we want to compete. Like, he basically is checking his team, which he should. Checking their pride, gut checking them. Who here cares? Checking their care factor. Because losing a game like that, it's hard to show or hard to prove that you care. It's like you're lacking something. And the pride, you have any type of pride, you don't lose to Chicago by that amount. And that's what he was saying. So he said that, and then he followed up with, focus on, getting pushed for playoff contention. But he said championship aspirations, which I think people, thought it was far-fetched. I get, we're trying to make a push for the playoffs. Cool, shut it down. I just think the time of it is tough because it's March already almost. Season ends in April. But yeah, I think the reasons he's doing it, which I hope is just focusing on for him and drowning out the noise, and not the latter of what you're speaking of. But it looks like he's tired of getting the slack for him and his team, a distraction from the fans. Philly's not the easiest place to play. The fans will let you know about yourself. So I think he's just tired of getting that outside noise from them.
Yeah, it's tough. It's unfortunate to see. But, if it is a distraction for him, then so be it.
Yeah.
So be it. That they're in wraps up and summarizes our thoughts on podcasting. To any professional athlete that is out there that wants to podcast, I think Danny and I, even though it's more competition, god damn, we would still encourage you to do it. I will say, Dan, what's crazy? I thought we were late to the podcast game.
Really? 7 years ago. Yeah.
7 years ago, I still thought we were late. And look at it now.
We were very early. I think there's probably 100 times more players than what we had when we first started. I only remember like 5 other players being a part of it. Maybe even 3 or 4. I remember CJ, JJ. I think Josh had one early on. He started it like right after a little bit. when he was in New Orleans. But yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, there was CJ McCollum and Jordan Schultz, who's getting into verbal altercations with NFL media reporters. I don't know if you heard about that. I gotta update you on that. Yeah, and then it was JJ Redick, Josh Hart.
Yeah, he did.
And then Channing Frye and Richard Jefferson. They started after they were done.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else. Everybody doing one now, man.
Yeah.
The game done changed. With that being said, when we come back, speaking of the game changing, things ain't how they used to be, according to LeBron James. And apparently that's trickling down to Anthony Edwards. We're going to tell you what LeBron James said after the Lakers beat the Timberwolves on Thursday night. And before we do that, I have a trivia question for Danny as well. Be right back. This is Inside the Green Room. You guys already know the vibes. Harrison Sanford and Danny Green. Before we get into LeBron's comments, I do want to start something new here, Danny. Each week, I would like for us to pose trivia questions to each other. So this week, I'm going to pose one to you, and then next week you'll pose one to me. And then after the end of the NBA Finals, we'll see who won the most. And I'm going to give you this trivia question.
Does it have to be sports related?
Yeah, bro. Come on now. It's got to be NBA related.
Okay.
All right. So I was watching the Magic game the other day. I watched the Magic versus the Warriors. Curry went crazy. He scored 56 points. And they put up a graphic that said, name the father-son combos that have scored the most three-pointers in NBA history. Unfortunately, I did not take a screenshot of that graphic, and I'm not doing all that research to find the answer. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an easier one. Okay. Name the father-son combos in NBA history to score the most points. I'm going to give me the top four, and I'll give you 3 strikes.
Okay. Clay and his pops.
Okay.
Is
number
he
4.
Up there? He's up there?
Number 4.
I'm going to have to say Steph and his pops, right?
Number 3.
Okay. Who else was OD? No, I'm thinking, no. Points. Bron and Bronny.
Number 1, actually, yeah. I thought that might be the one that stumbles you, but yeah, obviously LeBron put up
40K.
Yeah, they're also LeBron and Bronny also top 5 all time in most 3-pointers made between a father and son. That's just because LeBron has this number of threes as well. So you got 3 out of the 4. You got 1 more left. That's not bad.
Yeah. Father.
And you got 3, and you got 3 strikes to go.
Points. Who else scored a lot of points that had their pops in the league? Who else been getting buckets like that? I'm trying to think who else. Ooh, not any MVPs, any All-Star. Who was an All-Star that their dad was nice? I couldn't even tell you, bro. I want to say, nah. I couldn't even tell you.
You can't. I mean, come on, bro. Think about.
Is he still playing currently? Is he still playing currently, or is he done? Tim Hardaway.
I can't. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tim Hardaway Sr. Is that your official guess?
Yeah, that's one of my official guess.
That's a strike.
Okay.
Good. It's not a bad option.
Yeah. Jalen
I can
Brunson?
tell you. And Jalen and Rick Brunson, no, 2 strikes.
So are they still playing today? One of the kids.
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that it is a guard.
Okay.
It's the only hint I'll give you.
It's a guard. Even if you told me they were still playing, I don't think it would matter. I was thinking
1 guess left. You got 1 guess left, and you got 1 more, ranking left. So this next one will do you in one way or another.
A guard. Whose pops was nice? That was a guard. Not Jay Kidd or John Stockton.
You grew up watching this player.
For sure. I mean, I grew up watching a lot of fucking guys.
He was highly noted for his defense.
I'm thinking it's not Gary Payton. There's no way it's Gary Payton.
Is that your guess?
I'm just go Gary Payton and Gary Payton the second.
I purposely did that to throw you off the scent. It was not Gary Payton. He did Gary Payton the second. It was Kobe Bryant and Joe Jellybean Bryant.
So they're not playing anymore. Yeah, that's so.
I wasn't gonna tell you. I wasn't gonna tell you that. That'd have been too easy. Yeah.
I still wouldn't have guessed it though. Because I definitely forgot about Kobe's pops being like
in the league.
Yeah, I definitely.
I mean, obviously Kobe did. Obviously Kobe did more of the work himself, but yeah. And I tried to throw you off by saying he was known for his defense.
For his defense, yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously Kobe was still known for his defense. He made multiple NBA first teams defense, but obviously if you think about Kobe, that's not the first thing that comes to your mind. Gary Payton.
Did his pops play overseas a lot?
Who? Kobe?
His pops. Yeah, his pops. Did he play overseas too?
Yeah, he played overseas a lot.
That's why he knows Italian, right? Because he knows like Italian and he knows some Spanish, but he spoke other languages because I think his pops. I think he was born and raised. I think he lived over there or something.
Yeah, he did. Before he ended up at Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania. Joe Jellybean Bryant scored 5,252 points in the NBA. Kobe obviously 33,643. So they were number two on the list. LeBron and Bronny were number one with over 41K. Joe and Kobe, Dell and Steph, Michael Thompson and Klay Thompson, and then number 5, Dolph Shays and Danny Shays. It's before my time.
Couldn't tell you. Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Before my time. All right, y'all. Let's get to the sound of the week. James, play it for us, please.
With Ant considered, one of the possible future faces of the league, was being the face of the league something that you actively wanted, or was it something that everyone else decided for you? And what has that responsibility meant to you?
No, well, Ant already said he don't want it.
I know.
Yeah, Ant said he ain't trying to deal with that. And, Channing Frye said it the other day, too, it's unfortunate, but, I don't know, why do you want to be the face of a league when all the people that, that cover our game and talk about our game on a day-to-day basis on everybody? You have that responsibility. It's just weird. It's weird energy.
Weird energy, according to LeBron James, which is why he doesn't blame Anthony Edwards for maybe not wanting to be the face of the league. Danny, I have my thoughts, but I'll let you get yours out first.
I don't blame. I see both. It's a gift and a curse, right? It's a blessing, but at the same time, you're going to be highly scrutinized. The microscope, you can't. Everything you do is going to be criticized, judged, etc. But the media has been the media since before time. That's their job. They're gonna, regardless if you're the top of the top or if you're in the league, you're gonna be one of those guys that be criticized, be ridiculed. So should be used to at this point. I don't know if it's weird energy, but it's what they're supposed to do. You're gonna get some negativity. If they're not gonna and not everything's gonna be positive in life, especially when it comes to sports and when media talks about you. They'll give you flowers, and people always remember the bad more than they remember the good. Even they could speak light years of flowers and great things about LeBron. He says one bad thing, they're gonna remember, he skipped. Obviously has a thing with Russ and Bron, but they can give these guys all the flowers. But once you say one bad thing, it outweighs the 10 good things that you did or said. And that's what people remember, especially even players. So I get what he's saying. I understand where he's coming from. I understand Ant not wanting to be in that light. But, why not? It's your job. You want to be the greatest, right? You want to be the best. That's what you're supposed to do. And the best comes with a lot of other things, not just being great on the court, but handling yourself like a professional and being the face of the league. So, media is going to be media. It's been weird energy since before time. I don't see it being any different than what it was before. And obviously abundance of it now because of social media. But hey, that's life. That's a part of the game. That's how you get the tickets and seats. That's how you get the money. That's how you get your bills paid. So hey, to each his own.
Yeah, you know, a couple of things here. One, I wish LeBron didn't say that. Right? Because Anthony Edwards is a fantastic basketball player.
Yeah, a young kid that looks up to Bron too as well. You back him. You can back him by also pushing him and encourage him to be that.
Exactly. He did it in such a manner that if I'm John Morant, if I'm Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if I'm Anthony Edwards, I'm like, yo, LeBron might be right. I don't want to be the face of the league. I don't want to look. He's doing just fine. And he's telling me I shouldn't want to be the face of the league. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Two, I do understand in a sense where LeBron is coming from, because in this media world, in this day and age, it is vastly different than probably what he grew up watching and probably what you and I grew up consuming as media, especially because of the advent and advancement of social media. The negativity gets shined 10 times more because there's just so many different arms to disseminate information and opinions nowadays than there ever was before. And to a certain extent, there's some, I know Channing Frye made the comment about nostalgia's ruining the NBA. And I think he's right because in a sense, I think we all, because now that we look back at Jordan and we look back at even Kobe and we look back at Magic and Bird and all that, like we think that they were getting praised all the time. No, they weren't. Like Michael Jordan was getting his fair share of negative media attention until he started winning at a high rate.
So did Kobe.
So and Kobe got his more than a fair share of negative media attention. But then it changed over time. This is every character's. Nobody wants to watch a movie, Danny. Nobody wants to watch a movie where the character doesn't go through any trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a fun movie to watch.
It's not a good, What entertains us is the dilemmas, the problems. We can laugh at them, but we can grow with them, we can understand them, and we can also celebrate your success even more because we've seen what you've gone through.
These athletes need to understand that you are a character in a story. Whether you like it or not, like that's the role, that's the life that you've chosen to live. And people want to see you go through, they don't want to see you go through up and downs per se. They're not rooting for it, but at the same time, they are more interested in you when you go through ups and downs. And so when you play bad, we're going to talk about how you played bad. When you played well, we're going to talk about how you played well. Steph Curry used to get negative attention because he was never a finals MVP. And then he won it, and then now look how we look at Steph Curry. Totally different. It's just it's the reality of the job. And if you don't want the realities of the job, then frankly, it sucks that you applied for it. Because you're more than qualified. We gotta hire you, but you don't want to do all the requirements. You're not happy at work. That's crazy to me. It's a sad state of affairs. I do think I have so many thoughts. I was watching a bunch of ESPN this morning, and Brian Windhorst did make a valid point, and I want your thoughts on this. He does feel, and he alluded to the fact that the NBA is the best it's ever been, and I agree with that. In terms of the talent on the court, it's never been this good, and it's not even a question in my opinion. But he did say that he thinks there is an imbalance on how the league is covered. We don't highlight all of the great play. We elevate the negative things, and it's so much easier, it feels like, to access negative commentary than it is to access positive commentary. And I think that is fair. I think if I look at the NFL, there are so many players who get celebrated on a consistent basis. But at the same time, like the quarterbacks get celebrated on a consistent basis. But even then, some of the quarterbacks get negative attention. It's just the reality of media. It's a reality of what compels you. If everybody in the NBA played well, if everybody in the NBA was this fascinating player with no flaws, the shit would be boring. And it wouldn't be interesting. It's just the reality. Live with it.
Yeah, I'm with you. A lot of thoughts as well. There was one I wanted to get to early and then circle back to it. What was that last thing that you said? You were saying
that there's an imbalance of negative and positive.
Wendy, yes.
Yeah, Wendy. And he said the game is the best it's ever been.
Because I agree that it's the most talented it's ever been. It does seem a bit messy though. It doesn't seem as organized. And I think if it was great, if it's that great, I think people would be more interested. Yes, you're going to get positive and negative thoughts on everything, right? And yes, we cannot. And this is one of the things that I've said at times early on is that the person calling the game can very much influence a viewer's perception of a player. So they need to be very careful how you speak on guys. And a lot of them are biased because they're calling a game for a certain team. So they're going to speak highly toward their team and negatively toward other teams. Like they'll look at a play that Jordan Clarkson does. Oh, he chucked up a brick. Now you're looking at this guy like he's a chucker or a brick thrower, or he takes bad shots. I think it was Mike Breen. They had a whole segment. They clipped it. And not saying that Mike is great, love him the best, but now somebody watching the game for that first time, they're looking at Jordan Clarkson. Why did they pay this guy this much money? Why did everybody sees certain players play? He's not that good. He does this. He makes these mistakes. Now all you're looking for is the mistakes that he makes now, or the things that he does bad. So I think it's very important that we do promote it in a positive way and be careful how we speak on individuals, because there's people that covered me in San Antonio that talk not that highly of me, even in LA, of some of the mistakes I made defensively or offensively. Oh, he's got to shoot this, or he got to do that better. And it's some of the guys that we've looked up to when we were kids and watched them play, because these guys are talking. But it's like, how would you feel if I was calling one of your games, or somebody called your game, was speaking about you in this manner? Probably wouldn't like it, because now you got people looking at you in a different way. Now it's like, oh, he's hating on. You got family members texting me, oh, so and so's hating on you. It's like, I don't watch the game, so I can't hear it, but people that don't understand the game or know the game, go ahead.
I understand where you're getting, but there's a fine line to that, right? Because we have, as media people, we have to critique the game.
I'm all for that. You can critique without singling out a guy, because there's some guys that they'll point out, they don't say anything good. They'll just, oh, he's got to stop doing this. He's continually flopping. Like you say, if you're watching, so he continually does it. So yes, you can critique. Do it once or twice and move on, or you can say some good things as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I understand that, but again, everybody who plays a professional sport is a character in a play. Mm-hmm. So if your character is, you make defensive mistakes. Your character is you're a 30-point per game scorer, but you take terrible shots. That's your character in the play.
I'm all for that, H. You can criticize constructively. You can talk the game the way you talk the game. There are some guys that I feel like they teeter the line. They go over the line to where now you're singling me out. You're talking only and only about me in a bad way, in a manner, constantly mentioning this person's name in a derogatory way, or you constantly mention. You can talk the game. Don't have to talk everybody the same way. If you're going to do that, talk everybody the same way, not just the one person in the game. It's like, oh, you can say, oh, that's a bad shot. You need to take a better shot. Some people, they did, Charlotte Hornets is animated guy, but some people make jokes out of it. You know what I'm saying? And now the narrative is, oh, so-and-so can't hit the side of a barn, or so-and-so is a dumb player, or he's not this or that. So I just think there's a fine line, and you can do it professionally without going overboard.
Ooh, that's tough. You just opened up a can of worms with that one. We don't have enough time for that. It's I never thought about that, those instances, but I will say,
and it's not everybody. I'd have to give you examples.
I know for sure. But I will say this. I think it's increasingly difficult for. I think in this landscape, it's incredibly difficult for people like you and me, and anybody in media. Now, I won't include social media. Just anybody in media to cover the game for a couple of reasons. Number one, the X's and O's of basketball are not either appreciated or promoted enough. Danny, you and I can talk.
Yeah.
I love to talk X's and O's, but I rarely do because I know it doesn't get traction.
Yeah.
That's something that JJ Redick used to complain about, and that's why JJ Redick and LeBron started their pod, because they were ashamed of how much of X's and O's discussion is not out there in the basketball community. And it's a shame because if I look at the NFL, there's so much X's and O's discussion that is a part of the commentary of the NFL. And I think people enjoy the process of becoming smarter NFL viewers. And I wish that there were more people or more networks who promoted making people more educated NBA viewers. Really teaching about blitzing, really teaching about screening aways, really teaching about the diversity of switching your angle on the screen. But it just doesn't get celebrated enough. So or enough attention. So because of that, and we know that to be, and we feel that to be true. You and I, people like you and I, we have to go two extremes. I gotta say some negative shit about Kevin Durant in order to get some views, right?
Yes.
I gotta talk about his
takes.
legacy.
You gotta have the hot takes to get views. That's what sells tickets. That's what gets attention. That's what gets viewership. Drama, smoke, negativity, hot takes.
Yeah. And then I know for you, and I've had this discussion with you before, I know it must be, it's an interesting angle for you to be in because you were part of the 450. You know how hard it is to be a part of the 450. And some of these guys, how hard it is to guard them. So you have a different level of reverence for them. But at the same time, if you don't keep it a bean, it's not going to be respected enough what you say, right? So and then they might tell you, hey, you're not going hard enough on the player. So it's like you can't go too soft, you can't go too, and if you go too hard, it's like, yo, but almost feel, at a certain sense, it feels like you have to betray your actual basketball affection,
fraternity,
acumen, and IQ. Not even the fraternity. I don't think there's anything wrong with you saying something negative about a player and how they perform. But I feel like it's almost like you have to go against your basketball sensibilities in order to get attention.
Yeah, 100%. Can of worms opened. Yeah. And poured out. But yeah, we'll see, man. I said there's a couple things that they think could change. Media has to do a better job of promoting it and speaking positive light into it for sure and covering it better. But also, I think there's other ways to change the game to make it better, more efficient. I think a lot of things slow it down and it bores people. But yes, this is the most talented groups that we've seen in the game in history. Overall, in general, every player can do a little bit of everything now.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's gonna get really good because the playoffs are coming up. That takes me back to what Anthony Edwards said and what LeBron said. Whether they want to or not, one of these guys is going to emerge as the face of the league because you know what? I know they want to win games.
Yeah. And
if you win, and when you win games and you win championships, whether you want it or not, unless you're Tim Duncan, you become the face of the league. So
good luck with that.
It. Yeah, right. That was a lot. State of the NBA. I will say this. Though. Like I do wish that I really do wish this. Like, and I thought JJ Redick was doing a good thing when he was in media. He was. I thought he confronted a lot of narratives that were made up or that weren't real and tried to just be honest about the game a lot. I thought he did a great job at teaching the game. Yeah. And I do think he did it. Here's why I think he was good at it, because I think he was unapologetic about how real he was going to be and how he was not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. He's like, no, I know you want me to say something negative about KD,
Yeah.
I'll be real about KD, but you're not gonna make me go over the board with KD because y'all wallet. And I think that's where LeBron and maybe other people like him get annoyed because they realize that in order for somebody to get attention regarding, they have to use my name in such a negative. They have to go overboard. They can't just say I was bad last night. They have to
and
say,
he didn't have to. Yeah,
he's the worst closer in superstar history. Like like that's. It's just weird. I don't even blame the media either. This is the society that we're in. Because there's so many different things and how to get the attention.
That's where the energy comes from. It's a weird energy world.
Yes. It's a weird. It's not just weird media. It's not just weird social media. It's a weird energy world. I think you just said it perfectly, Danny. But hopefully we can change that. Hopefully we can change that.
Might be too late.
It might be too late. Speaking of which, it is too late. We got to get up out of here. Come back next week for some real basketball talk.
Until then, read, rate, subscribe, review. You know what to do. Peace.